are blessed to have speaker Dr. Feliciano here. You got a lot of degrees, man. You got a lot of degrees. So it's a lot of work. He's a licensed psychologist since 2008. He has a bachelor's in biblical theology, a master's in psychology, and he also has his doctorates in counseling psychology. Not only that, but he's also a pastor of the Washington Spanish Bilingual Church in Maryland. So I want to welcome Dr. Feliciano. We're blessed to have him. It's a very important event about mental health. The floor is yours.
So good to be here. So good to be here. As he said, I'm coming from the Washington Bilingual SDA Church in Silver Spring, Maryland. So the traffic was interesting. 495 is, develops your character and your patience. I'm very happy to be here. I met Pastor Vinny some years ago when I was pastoring in Virginia. We used to meet every month to spend time together with the pastors of the area. Great experiences. I miss that. I really miss that. My name is Gamaliel Feliciano. Easy to pronounce. Gamma, like gamma rays. Lee, like Bruce Lee. And L, like the letter. Gamma, Lee, L. You got it? Wow. My friends call me Gamma. So Gamma is fine. The young people in my church call me Pastor G. And my wife called me handsome and beautiful, but that is just her. That's just her. To give you an idea of who I am, I was born in Germany, Augsburg, Germany. My father was in the army at that time, the U.S. Army. But I was back in Puerto Rico, the island of Puerto Rico, when I was 2 years old. So I grew up in Puerto Rico. We moved to the States, to mainland, 10 years ago with my wife. I've been married for how long? 18 years, and 3 years dating, and 5 years that she was, hunting me. No, she's not here. That's the only reason I say that. No, but around 20 years we have been together, 21 years. We have two beautiful girls. Lorena is going to be a senior next year. Can you believe that? With this young face, I have a senior. And Nara is going to be a freshman in high school. So I'm going to have two high schoolers at home. And my wife, Lorna, works for the government in the Department of Transportation. She's a civil engineer. And we have been working for the Potomac Conference for 7 years now. 7 years now. When we moved to the States, I worked in a multicultural clinic in Virginia. I was doing therapy in Spanish. We used to offer 12 languages, therapy in 12 languages in that place. And I was doing Spanish with little children, 4 years old to 10 years old. And I was working as well in D.C. in an agency for therapy for at-risk youth. So I was doing that. And I did it for a few years before I started to pastor again. I started pastoring in 2000. So it was a long time ago. I was like 6 years old. Let's talk about mental health. But before, I would like to pray. Would you pray with me? Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Lord, thank you, Father, for this beautiful Sabbath that you have given us. Help us to understand the message behind, or the message include in having a good mental health and how we can help other people. Guide us. Stay with us. In Jesus' name, amen. So I'm going to do a few things that are very simple. I'm going to talk about the types of mental illness. I'm going to talk about how we can work with our mental health. And I'm going to talk as well about how we can help other people to maintain their mental health or to deal with a mental illness that is something very real, even among us. And I'm going to do an exercise. I'm going to start by doing an exercise with you guys. If you stand up with me, I'm going to make you move a little bit for the lunch, to sit down appropriately. And I'm going to ask you, no, you can stay where you are. I'm going to put a statement on the screen, and if you agree with it, you're going to move to my right. to where the yellow, if you don't remember, the yellow one, the yellow sign is. Just move to the right, and to my right, to your left. And if you disagree, you're going to move to the other side, to this side. I'm going to remind you every time. Let's start with the first one. If they say it, they won't do it. When we talk about suicide, if they say it, they won't do it. Do you agree or do you disagree? If you have no idea, you can stand up in the back of the room. No problem. Yeah, move. Physically move. Yeah. Disagree. Agree. I feel group pressure here. I don't know. Somebody in this. Okay, perfect. I'm going after you. Somebody in this side. Why you disagree? Okay, let me. Can she speak without the microphone for the streaming? No problem. Okay. Oh, she needs some mic. Why you disagree?
I disagree because sometimes people can use these I want to kill myself suicide threats as a cry for help to see if anyone cares. Okay. So they might still do it.
Interesting. You want to say something?
I disagree because I've seen it happen.
Very good. Over there.
I disagree because I think that it's a way to get people off your back,
Okay.
tell people what they want to hear.
Tell me more. I want to understand everything you're saying.
So if they say they won't do it,
Uh-huh.
who are they saying it to? They're saying it to somebody who's obviously concerned,
Okay.
who's inquiring. So to get them off their back, they would say, I won't do it.
Okay. Interesting. Perfect.
I had a neighbor in Baltimore that was sitting on the steps of the porch one summer evening, and she was engaging in normal conversation with a neighbor, and about 5 minutes later, she went into the home, into the house, and we heard a gunshot, and she had shot herself in the head, and she, of course, was dead. So a lot of people cover up emotional, mental illness, and we don't know it until it's done.
That's true too. In this side, somebody.
I think I've read or heard somewhere that if somebody says it, there's a less likelihood that they'll do it. So that's why I agree with it.
Okay. Good perspective. Somebody else in this side. Yes.
I probably think that it could go either way. I know Robin Williams was telling people, no, I'm not going to do it. No, I'm not going to. Don't, you're worrying about too much about me. I'm not going to do it, and he did it. So.
Okay. So you're saying that is not the only variable that we have to consider, the only element that we have to consider. Interesting. Somebody else. Let's go to the next one. If you are depressed, something bad you did. You did something bad. Disagree on the red. Agree on this side. Move. If you're depressed, it's because you did something bad. If you disagree, this side. If you agree, this side. You moved. Let's hear it. Oh, it's everybody? Only the little one? No. Okay, somebody. Feedback. Somebody. Why you agree? Do you disagree with it? Simple.
Depression doesn't always come from behavior. Sometimes it could be, something going on in somebody's brain.
Okay. So when we as a church say that our decisions take us to places that are not so bright, if you know what I mean, it's not connected to this?
It could be
Does that make sense?
because of poor nutrition and bad health. I'm agreeing with Sister Garcia.
Say that again? Bad nutrition, bad health.
In your physical organ, the brain,
Okay.
which your mind works through.
Okay. Yes.
It could be or it could not be, but not always.
Not always. Very good. Let's go to the next one. All you need is determination to be healed. Disagree, agree. So let's go to the back. Why do you think, guys, that is wrong? That is incorrect?
Also, you need medicine, you need spiritual healing, of course, God first.
Okay.
But you need to go to the pharmacy, get your prescription sometimes.
And that is...
So it's not only determination. Determination helps, but it's a component.
Okay. So you should be on the other side, I think.
You should be on the side.
Let's go to the other one, to the next one. Pray and everything will go away. Careful. Somebody. We have mics in this side or the other side.
I think you've put them in a real quandary now.
Disagree, agree. Confused in the middle. Pray and everything will go away. Don't we preach that prayer has power? Okay. Somebody. Yeah, right here. He wants to say something.
Watch and pray. I just want to say that you cannot just pray and assume everything's going to be okay. You need to take the step that the Holy Spirit and or Jesus will be telling you to take to make sure that you can.
I like the phrase you said at the beginning.
Yeah.
Not only pray, it's watch and pray. You said, right?
Although we do pray, Paul asked for God to take away his thorn in his side. He still didn't have his vision. Jesus said, "Let thy will be done." All he didn't want to die on the cross. He prayed, but said, "God, let your will be done."
Okay. Okay. Somebody else?
That's me. I
Yes.
lost my voice.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's necessary to be specific. I don't know if I'm on the right side or the wrong side here, but you have to be specific in your prayer, in what you ask for.
Yeah.
This is a very general statement.
That's true.
And it also depends
And it's on purpose.
with what your mind and spirit are full of,
Uh-huh.
and that your body is healthy as well.
I understand. Lovely. So you were saying? Right here in the front.
No, I just saying faith is number one. If you pray because you have faith, that is going to be
Okay.
everything under control.
Okay.
That's it.
What about what James says about faith? James says that is death when?
That's Hebrews.
Say that again?
Without faith it is impossible to please God, for those that would come to him must believe that he is, and that he's a rewarder of them that diligently seek him.
Amen. Amen. You got it clear. You got it clear. Awesome. Okay, you can sit down. Take a seat. Who won? No, nobody. Yeah, the statements were very open, not specific enough, but that's the idea. I wanted to encourage the conversation. Even though we agree mostly on them with small exceptions, sometimes, believe it or not, as Christians, we believe certain things that are not aligned with what you guys were saying about these statements. So let's talk about some types of mental health, mental disorders, or mental illness. I'm not going to cover everything. There's a lot to talk about this, and that is not the main part of the conversation today. As a matter of fact, I wanted to remind you that if you have any questions or a question or a comment, feel free to express it during our conversation. You don't have to wait until the end. Just raise your hand and I will see you and I will give you the opportunity. It's very small. I'm sorry about that. Very, very small. But I'm going to explain them to you. The first one that I want to share with you is called cognitive disorders. And example of that is the delirium, dementia, amnestic disorder, among others. When we talk about dementia, maybe that's the most common one. And you remember one of them? You may remember one of them, one of those disorders under dementia. Alzheimer, right? That's the most common or the most known among regular people that are not practicing psychology or psychiatry or even health in general. So it's a type of dementia, and the cognitive disorders are connected to the way we think, and it's a significant change in cognition that represents a significant change from a previous level of functioning. In the case of Alzheimer, for example, we think that a person with Alzheimer's is a person that starts to forget everything, but that's not the main trait of it. People with Alzheimer start to, what's the word that I could use? They start to forget things that they learned in the past. It's not only about experiences, but it's also about knowledge, practical knowledge, how to cook, how to drive, etc. Okay? And that's the first one. The second one is the substance-related disorders. It's more connected to drugs, but it's not only illegal drugs. Could be medicines, could be toxins, exposure to toxins. And we have a few disorders that are connected or under this type of mental illness, the substance-related disorders, like substance abuse, dependence, intoxication. I think that one is very known as well. The other one is, let me go back. The other one is the psychotic disorders, and we find there the schizophrenia, delusional disorder, etc. And those are typically the main symptoms that you're going to find in these disorders is the hallucination or other psychotic symptoms. Hallucinations like hearing voices, either sounds or specific commands, or seeing things or feeling things, etc. Mood disorders, and this one I think I'm going to stop a little bit in this one because it's the most common. And in our church, or in the Christianity, we see this one it's a very common one. And you can find under mood disorders among many major depression, bipolar disorder, dystemic disorder. And I wanted to explain something that is very simple, but if we understand, we are going to connect to other areas that we are going to be discussing today. When we go through life, our mood is going to move up and down. There you go. Up and down. That is normal. Sometimes we feel excited, we feel our mood is up. Some other times we are depressed, we are sad, either because of the circumstances or something that happened, or maybe a loss, something like that. So every one of us go through this process of having this wave that we call mood. On top, there's something that we call mania, and at the bottom is the depression, right? The problem is when these waves are too high and too constant. In other words, when we are talking about mental illness, maybe something to erase When we talk about mental illness, we need to consider two things. Thank you. I'm going to erase this. We need to consider two things. Not only when we are talking about mood disorders, but in any disorder, when we are identifying if there is some illness in a person, we need to consider changes. Changes in frequency and changes in intensity. Okay? Frequency, intensity. Okay? In other words, going back to the graphic, if a person is supposed to go this way, right? This is the normal way our mood works. But instead of doing this, it does this and stay there, or go down and stay there, there's a problem. If in another case, it goes up and down, up and down, up and down very quickly, there is a problem. Okay? To conclude, we all have changes in our mood. What we need to identify if there is a change in frequency or intensity. Frequency in terms of how often it changes, or intensity in terms of if I stay in one of the sides of the spectrum. Does that make sense? Okay, I saw your hand.
A question. And what happened with those people that they suffer bipolar?
Yes. Well, the bipolar disorder is distinguished by a constant and intense change between the 2 points. Okay? You're going to have what we call episodes of mania or depression, right? And there are different types of bipolar disorder. And the causes are different too. There's a variety of it. If you want more information, clinical information about it, just go online and look for the DSM. Right now we have the 5. This is the manual for mental disorders. And you're going to find a description of each one of the disorders, conditions. Does that make sense? But I didn't answer your question.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
The difference that they have to take some kind of medication, to control that.
Well, in the case of mood disorders, we need to consider, let me rewind. Some professionals will say right away, yes, they have to. I'm going to give you another answer. I don't think that everybody have to take medication. However, in some cases, it is necessary. And I'm going to explain why. Are you ready? Okay. If you don't understand something that I say, any of you, just let me know, okay? Sometimes I don't even understand myself, so there's not a problem. Thank you. It's going to make me cry, and he brought the tissue. Okay. What was the question? Oh, I remember. When when we talk about medication, you need to consider the root of the problem. Let's start by that. Sometimes we think of medication as the magic pill. Let's call it like that. And we think that if I drink something, everything is going to be okay. But it's not. It's more complex than that. When I say root, is that our mood is not determined by a biological factor. If it was like that, a pill would solve the problem. And when I mention biological, I'm talking about hormones, genetics, etc. Okay? Our mood is not determined, but is influenced by biological factors, social factors, psychological factors, physical is included there. I think those 3 cover almost everything. So if I take a medication and that's it, I'm covering only this base. But I'm forgetting the social element, the psychological element, the emotional, the spiritual. That's a big one. Many people say that they are depressed and they are not in depression per se because of these elements, but because they haven't found their sense of life in God. That happens. And when they find their spiritual reason of life, everything is solved. So when we talk about mood, we need to consider all these elements. So with that with that graphic, we conclude that yes, medication is important since the biological factor is there. A doctor should conclude if one of the things that is affecting your mood is a medical condition or unbalanced in your chemicals in your body, etc. Because the medication works on those areas. I can take my medication, but if I don't go to therapy, maybe it's not going to be solved. If I don't have relationships that are significant and deep and, and reinforced to have that I have a good life, I'm going to need it. I'm going to need it. Okay? Are you more confused than before? That was my goal. No. A little bit? Okay. Yes. Hopefully it's going to be more clear as we move forward.
Doctor, could you explain the anatomy? Basically, I'm created, okay, I'm okay. All of a sudden, why I'm getting all kind of disorder, mood change? Can you tell me that the basic anatomy of the brain, how it works, how it changes everything?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, your mood changes, psychology changes, substance related. When you drink, your things are changing. So could you explain that, how it is affecting the brain to change your behavior?
Yeah. I have no time to go over the anatomy of the brain. Yeah. So allow me to explain part of it. Part of it. There's something that is called synapses. What's the word in English? I think that's the word, right? Synapses. In our brain, we have terminals that are nervous terminals. And something happening here is electricity, positive and negative. Every time something happens in here, every time we have that, what's the word again? Synapses. We create a memory. A memory. Not all the time we are aware of that memory. But the body, our brain knows it and records it. So in the case of, you mentioned the substance, right? Anything. Yeah. When we receive something that, in the case of substances, when we receive something that creates a synapses that is pleasant for the body, the brain registers it as something that is good. Okay? And the brain will allow, to a certain level, will not put this wall of protection when you want to do it again. There's then the social element and the psychological element have to kick in to tell you, hey, that's not correct. Either because society says it's not correct, because we have scientific research that says that, yeah, you could feel well and good and the pleasure at the moment, but in the long term, it's not going to work for you. So that's one. That's one. The other one is that all the transference that goes from one side to the other depends on chemicals. And if we don't have a balance in our body, we could have more chemicals, one of them, or negative, whatever it is, an imbalance. And this is going to go up, and this one is going down. And this unbalance will be reflected in, for example, our mood. Does that make sense? More or less?
Why I get depression?
Yeah.
That's something I can control myself.
Yeah, there are elements that you can control. There are other elements that you cannot. You can deal with them, right? And we have to go back to the root, okay? These elements right here, some elements that you could work with them and balance them, right? We sometimes don't give the value to the social interaction that we must have. And we live inside of our homes. We don't know our neighbor. We don't call our family. We live with our teenagers, and they live under our own roof, but we don't connect with them. And the interaction that I showed you here from the nervous system is fed by these interactions as well. When you spend time with someone that you love, your body will benefit from that, okay? Not only as a thought, but as a concrete thing in our biology, okay? So there are things that you can control. However, the same way you could get sick physically, depression is real. It's not like somebody is not strong enough. You are not strong enough, that's why you're depressed. No, That is to simplify something that is very complex. Okay? We need to move forward. Is that okay? Okay. So the other one, anxiety disorders, I'm not going to stop in this one. I'm just going to mention that these people feel physically the acceleration, the anxiety, when they are before certain circumstances or people or events or even objects. Okay, the most known in that area is the PTSD maybe, and I'm sure you have heard about it. You know about it. Agoraphobia as well is the anxiety created of being in a place that I cannot escape. If I get to a church that is very, very full, I could get anxiety. And depending on the frequency and intensity, we could call it that way. The OCD as well. Those two components, obsessive compulsive disorder, is two components. The obsession of having something or experiencing something, and the compensation through the compulsion. Like, I don't want to carry any germs, I have to wash my hands all the time. Only a few examples. You don't see there the panic attack. Some people talk about the panic attack. The panic attack is not a disorder per se. You can find that symptom in different disorders. And the panic attack is not something that stays with you a long time. It's something that you experience for a few seconds, but the symptoms that you get from that anxiety, that panic attack, stay a little bit longer. And those are physical. It's like you're having a heart attack. And people go to the ER and they check you and they don't find anything, but you feel it. You feel it. The next one is very similar, is to have certain physical symptoms that cannot be explained by medical examination. Eating disorders, you know this one too, these two too. The anorexia and the bulimia. Anorexia is not to eat, bulimia is to eat, and practice then some certain things to, like vomiting, vinging, something like that. I'm sorry, I'm thinking in Spanish today. It's one of those days. And finally in this list, but we have much more, is the personality disorder. Those are more to the long term. The personality disorders are developed since you are a kid, and some are diagnosed when we are teenagers, but most of them are diagnosed when we are adults. Okay. In this one, we have the borderline, antisocial. What's the other one in English? Well, we have like 8 of them right now. There were some changes lately. I mentioned the DSM-5, but that one is pretty new, maybe 2 years. We stayed with the 4 revised for many years, and we have a few changes now. For example, the antisocial is when a person, let me rewind. When we say that somebody is antisocial, we think that is someone that is in the corner, that doesn't speak to anybody, that doesn't talk to anybody, and that's it. But the antisocial personality is someone that has this disorder is someone that is able to speak with you in a great way, is a great salesman. However, do not consider the rules. I can grow in my job by charming everybody, but I don't care about you. So it's very social in the sense that we usually know the term social. Yeah? But it's antisocial because that person practices behaviors that are not healthy at the social level. Does that make sense? Okay. Hopefully you're more confused now. So, there's a super small, I'm so sorry, I'm going to read them for you. A few facts for us to consider before we enter to the second part. Suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the U.S. Too much, right? Each year, more than 44,000 Americans die by suicide. Suicide is the second leading cause of death among teens. Mental health problems affect around 1 in 4 people. 1 in 4. And I didn't include all the disorders, as I mentioned, all the types. We have the disorders that are diagnosed when we are younger, children, like ADD, ADHD, ODD, all the Ds, all the Ds, autism, and the whole spectrum of autism, etc. For every suicide, 25 attempt. And the attempt only is something that should scare us, right? Should be scary to us. So, I don't know how long I have. Oh, I should be finishing, right? Okay. When we talk about taking care of ourselves, let's go to the Bible. You could find a lot of research about and a lot of books about self-care. But I would like to go to the Bible. And this verse, I think, summarizes everything we need to know about self-care for us as Christians. Above all else, guard your heart. For everything you do flows from it. Flows from it. We use heart to talk about emotions, but it's more than that. A few examples to amplify your concept of heart. When you go to John chapter 14, Jesus told the disciples, do not be, remember or not? Be troubled. Where? Your hearts. Do not let your hearts to be troubled, right? He's talking about emotions, but it's not the only time. Other times we see Jesus saying that he knew what they were thinking in their hearts. So it's not only emotions, it's also the cognitive part, the thinking part. And I like, there are more examples of this, but I like when Daniel wrote this phrase, he proposed in his heart. Remember? So it's will as well. When we talk about heart, we talk about emotions, we talk about our thinking, and we talk about will. If you want to take care of yourself, if you want to guard your heart, you need to take care of those 3 things. And I want to propose to you that we need to go back to creation. If we go to creation, we are going to find what we need to do to keep it fresh, our health, okay? In Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, you know this verse, God said, let us make man in our image, Elohim. Let us make. God is relational. And I think that if you want to take care of your mental health and everything in your life, you need to start by that point. God created you relational because he is relational. God loves relationships. And to be relational is not other thing than identify the people around me and allow myself to enter into their world. Society will tell you, no, be careful, because you're going to be hurt. And that's fine. Yeah, sometimes we are. But it's good to be relational. It's good to establish relationship. So today, if you're going to do something, practice that. Go back home. Be relational. Get to know better your wife. Get to know better your children. Get to know better your husband. You know, sometimes we have been married so long that we forget why we got married in the first place. Okay? Sometimes we could remember when we were boyfriend and girlfriend and we were holding hands everywhere. Sweaty hands. But it doesn't matter, right? Because, boyfriend and girlfriend, and now after 20 years, one is walking in Sears and the other one in JCPenney when you are in the mall. No, go back to that. Hold her hand. You know, put your hand in this area, in the waist of your wife, or where the waist was, I don't know. Do something. Do something. Be relational. Get to know people. Get to know people. And it's not only about the family, in the church as well, you can do that. Okay? Take the time to get to know people, to know about their aspirations, to know about their troubles, to know about their goals. Relationship. Something that we need to learn is that it's not only about coming to church Saturday morning, maybe a little bit in the afternoon, and see you next week. You know, if we are a body, the body of Christ, we need to be more connected. More connected. So the first one, be relational. Verse 27 said, God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. 3 times Moses used this verb, create. God is creative, and God created you the same way. You are not only relational, you are creative as well. And one of the things that we could do to identify new things to do, to bring that excitement again in our life, is to be creative. And what I mean by that is to do the things that I used to do and enjoy, or identify new things that I'm not doing that could be of benefit for me and for my life and for my family. So be creative. It's like thinking that you are the writer of your own movie, or of the movie of your life. Be creative. Be creative. Do something. Do something. I remember I was working with a guy of money when I was back in Puerto Rico in private practice, and he had everything in the eyes of everybody. A good wife, beautiful wife, great kids with great grades, a good job, good position, authority, respect, money, the house, the car. But he was sad all the time. He was like lost. And one day, I was having this conversation with him, and I told him, why you don't use all that money to help other people? Like what? I don't know. That's on you. You need to identify. You need to be creative. And he started a program in his community of basketball. He gave them money to fix basketball court and to help other teams, the teams in the area, to develop, to create teams. And he was excited about that. And a month later, he was another man. He was another man, just because he decided to be creative. In the same chapter, verse 31st, I think, God saw all that he had made, and it was very, very good. Very good. I added one very. It was very good. I wonder, did God know that everything was going to be affected by sin? Did God know at that point, when he said that, when he saw that it was very good, that Adam and Eve were going to deny him? Of course, he knows everything. Then why he said, or he thought, that it was very good? You know, there's something interesting about God. Allow me to explain it to you, and then we are going to apply that to our lives. When we ask God for something, when we have a request before God, we ask him based on the little piece in the puzzle that we are able to see. We don't know everything about our lives. Think about your life as a puzzle, big puzzle, a paint that is a puzzle as well. You and I, we are able to see one of the pieces. And we think that because we see that piece and we know the colors in that little piece, we know everything about our life. So God, this is what I need. And God receives our request based on that piece, but he answers not based on that piece. He answers based on the whole picture. Are you following me? Because God knows all the pieces of that picture in our life. He painted it. Even more. Even more. So when he saw that it was very good, he was not only seeing the little piece that Adam and Eve were going to miss. He was seeing the whole picture. That tells me a lot about attitude. And I believe that we need to be positive. We need to be positive. As Christians, we should be the happiest people on earth. Are we? Some Christians were baptized in lemon juice and vinegar. And we need to change that. This is part of the things that we need to do, that we can do. You know, not everything come to our life and that's it, and I have no control. No, there are many things that you and I can control. And how can we be positive when we see the fingerprint of God in everything we do, in everything we experience? Hey, pastor, I have a new job, more money, I'm so good. No, God gave it to you. God gave it to you. I heard a guy on TV telling another guy that was a pastor that he liked his suit. It was a very shiny, let's say, suit. And the other guy told him, hey, that suit is for anniversaries, for church anniversaries. And the guy smiled and said, Jesus gave it to me. The other guy, shut up. Yeah. Why? Well, it was on sale, so I took it like God gave it to me. Positive. See God in everything we do. In everything we do. Even more, experience things. We can experience things not only thinking about the future. Let me rephrase this. Sometimes, I'm going to give you an example. Sometimes we say we are saved, but we are not experiencing salvation. Is that possible? We think that salvation is something that it will come in the future, and we are just waiting. One day. No, but salvation is like bread. Something that I like to do is to cook, especially to make bread. Not only because I know that at the end I'm going to have bread to eat. I know you are thinking about it. But because of the smell and the process. It's therapeutic for me. The smells, in each stage of the process, you're going to have a different smell in the house. The yeast, the dough growing, everything in the oven. It is different, you know? And every time I smell something different, I'm thinking about the product at the end. Salvation is something that is not only for the future. It's something that should be impacting your life today. That you are going to consider things around you. You are going to evaluate things around you based on the fact that you know that something bigger is coming, but it's not only for the future, it's impacting my life today. I'm saved, so I'm going to be positive about the things that are around me. I'm going to think the best about the people that is around me as well. Be positive. Be positive. And the most important one, I'm going to move out of Genesis and go to Matthew. But seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. It is important for us to understand that we need to connect with God daily. Everything we do will be a waste if we don't connect with God daily. That's the most important thing. And the only thing that will give you purpose of life, sense of life. Connect with God daily, and ask Him, God, I want to be relational. I want to be creative. I want to be positive. That will impact your life to a level of having the health that you are looking for. Certain things will come, yes, but I could be sick, physically sick, and still be happy. And fight over that sickness, that illness. Understanding that God is there, supporting me, sustaining me, guiding me. Okay? So, practical ways to help others. Number one, inform yourself about the illness. We have a lot of misinformation, and we pretend to help other people based on that misinformation. So read. Not everything that isn't on the internet is correct. You know that, right? Yeah, there are some cuckoos writing on the internet. But inform yourself, read books, talk to people, talk to professionals. Facilitate and motivate treatment. That's the second one. Facilitate and motivate treatment. Maybe you cannot treat people, but you can help them to get the help that they need. Let's coordinate an appointment with a doctor. Hey, I'm going with you. I'm going to drive you. Or you're going by yourself. I'm going to call you after and before and after. I'm here for you. That's part of facilitating that treatment and motivating that treatment. Practice empathy. Practice empathy. Our empathy to other people take us a long way. And to have empathy or be empathetic is not to feel what the other person feels. Some people think that if I have empathy with a person that is in depression, that means that I should be crying with them, or in bed, or in a dark room with him or with her. No. Empathy is to understand why you are acting that way. Let me give you an example. If my mom is alive, God bless her, but if I lose my mom and somebody that has not experienced that come to me and say, hey, I know what you feel. Is that empathy? That's sympathy. It's trying to have sympathy with me, but that is not empathy. Empathy would be to say, hey, I know it looks dark for you, and I would feel maybe the same if I lose my mom. You know what I'm doing? I'm validating the emotion, the feeling, and I'm expressing how I understand where are you at this moment in your life. Are you with me? Okay. Personal contact. Call people. Conversations about life. Don't talk about the illness all the time. Don't talk about the illness all the time. Learn to listen and do it. Learn to listen and do it. That is something that we have to learn, and sometimes it takes us most of our life to learn how to listen. We are taught how to speak, but not how to listen. So, in summary, in that point, listen to understand. That's it. If you do that, you are listening right. Listen to understand. Do not listen to answer. Do not listen to answer. Listen to understand. I remember when I was a kid and we used to take out a rope and jump at home. And one of the things that it was very difficult for me, I was a chubby little kid, but beautiful. It was difficult for me to enter to the process when the rope was in motion, you know? And something that my older sister taught me was to start with the swing, you know, at the rhythm of the rope. And I was going to find the specific spot or the specific time to get in, to start to jump. And we do that in our conversations. And in that context, it's not effective. Sometimes we are talking with someone and we are with the swing, waiting for him to breathe, for me to enter, to answer. No, stop. If you want to listen, you need to relax, put your senses in favor of that person, and try to understand before you answer. Okay? And sometimes that requires to ask. To express what you are understanding with a question. Hey, it was a tough day at work. I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow. So this is what I'm listening. I'm listening that you are tired and you are thinking about not going to work tomorrow. Is that right? Nothing. Can you know? Can you see the question at the end? That opens the channel of conversation. Listen. Avoid patronizing. That's a killer right there. Pray and let him or her know that you are praying. Prayer has power, but it's more powerful when the person knows that you are praying for him or for her. What about as a church? Talking about it at church. Approach it as health first. Instead of blaming people or saying, no, you are doing it, you're weak, understand that it's a health issue. A health issue. Normalize the conversation. We are here from different cultures, I think, right? And in some of our cultures, to talk about mental illness is a sign of weakness. It's something that you don't do. Depression? Nah, that's for weak. That's for weak people. Normalize the conversation. You need to do this type of conversation more often. In a formal way, in an informal way, sit down. Hey, this is what I'm listening, this is what I'm feeling, what is your experience, this is my experience, how we can solve this together, how we can make stronger the group of the youth of the church, I don't know. Normalize the conversation, remove the mystique, is what we were talking about as well. Share your story, offer hope. The couple size, I don't think this is well written. I'm sorry about that. Disconnect faith or lack of faith with illness, or faith with absence of illness. Sometimes as Christians, we connect that and we say, okay, you are in depression because you are being unfaithful to God and God is punishing you. Come on, disconnect that. Humanize it and put God first in everything. Sorry I took a little bit longer than I was allowed to. Okay. So any questions, any comments? Yes. What's your name first?
Hi, my name is Olu.
Okay, Olu.
So the question I have is, I understand the importance of talking about other topics besides just the illness itself.
Yeah.
But sometimes the person going through it might feel like this is trivial conversation. So what sort of hints, I don't know, maybe body language, or how do you navigate a conversation that isn't about the illness without it sounding trivial and then end up being bothersome to the person going through the experience?
Yeah, maybe to make that statement a little bit more concrete, I would say, don't force it, right? Sometimes we go to a person that is sick and we force the conversation to go to that area or to that topic. Don't force it. Speak about the things that are going on. This is what is happening in my life, what is going on in your life. And maybe the person is going back to the illness as well. And we understand that. And even sometimes we need to teach them. Hey, you are talking about that all the time. Okay, let's talk about that, but let's talk about solutions too. You know, from your perspective, it might be easier for you to see things that the other person is not seeing. Yeah. And about the topics, I think that the connection that you have with the person will allow you to have more to talk about. Even the people that are suffering from mental illness have strengths, have good experiences, even in the midst of mental illness. So try to identify those and use them in your favor. It's not going to be easy, but it's possible. Thank you. Somebody else, a comment, an experience, a question? Yeah.
Hi, I'm Julio. I have a question. What if somebody is to the point where they have a mental illness and kind of locking themselves away, isolating, and you try to help, you try to like direct them, but I don't know what's the clear point, like when they just don't, you know, they don't want to seek help, they don't want to see psychiatrists, you know, like, you know what I mean?
Sí. Yes.
Gracias.
There are a few ways. I'm sorry. There are a few ways that we can approach that issue, and will depend on who the person is in relation to us. If we are talking about a parent, if we are talking about our spouse, our kids, we could deal with it a little bit different. So I'm going to give you a general answer for that. Somebody that is going through mental illness, sometimes it's a risk for himself, herself, or for other people. So you need to, either you or somebody else that you can talk to, you need to assess risk. Risk. Is there suicidal ideation? Suicidal ideation or attempt? You need to consider that. If the person is suicidal, you need to act. You cannot wait for them to decide to make the decision to look for help. See, the person is homicidal. Because it's not only about them, but maybe they are thinking about, hurting other people. See, as if it's super aggressive, and this is relative, right? But just for the sake of progressive. If there are hallucinations, all these elements will tell you how, if the person is at risk. If that is the case, and the person continue to say, I don't want any help, I think Virginia has it. Each state has a law in which you can request an order for them to evaluate by a psychiatrist, even if they are not, voluntarily going there. I don't know how the process is in Virginia, but I'm sure that if this is the case, you can go to the police station and they can process that. Yes, Pastor.
You can call 911 or the police station and
Okay.
ask in Virginia. You can call 911 or the police station in Virginia and ask for what's called a wellness check. And it's a very good practice because then you put it on someone of a higher authority and expertise
Yes.
to make a decision that you may not be qualified to make.
Yes.
So we've done that before. It's just you just ask for a wellness check.
Wellness check. And I think in Virginia, they go to your home.
They do.
Right? Yeah. So this is the first scenario. If the person, you assess risk and you don't see anything of this, and you're not seeing none of these elements, well, you can take another route, the route of relationship, and be subtle but consistent in terms of supervision, in terms of visitation, in terms of calls. Yeah? Because if the person is not showing any of these signs, it could get better, with your effort. And you don't have to involve something urgent as the wellness check. But definitely, you need to consider the option of taking them to be evaluated and convince them to a certain way when those elements of risk are not present. Does that make sense? Hopefully. Thank you.
Yes.
Somebody else.
I just wanted to relate an experience.
Go ahead, share it.
In my Sabbath school, there was a young boy, about 9 years old, was very quiet. And the family was iffy. They didn't know what was going on. But he would be off. He would come and sit near me because I always talked to him, but never really close.
You said 9 years old?
Yes.
Okay.
And he went on up to finish high school.
Mm-hmm.
I understood he was taking mental classes or whatever at the mental institution near where I worked. But Reagan closed all areas, mental hospitals, except for the state. Okay. So the rationale was that these people could take their medication and be fine.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Sadly, yeah.
The guy went to college for 1 year, then he decided he didn't want his medication.
Mm.
He was at home, he became so violent that they put him in a neighborhood type of facility that was supposed to monitor his medication.
Aggressiveness. Oh, okay.
He would come to church because he knew the Bible. He was a very smart kid.
Okay.
But people became very afraid of him
Mm-hmm.
because he wouldn't take care of himself and how he looked. And I wondered if there was some way along the way that we could have done something to try to help the family or this kid.
Yeah.
He became 6'4" and 200 and some pounds, so the family was really afraid of him.
Yeah.
I don't know what you do with a case like that, but you might have something like that in your school or your church.
Yes.
You don't know.
Yes. Yes. We might. I think that's a great experience, observation, and also an opportunity for us to learn and to be aware of what is going on in our church, for example. Something that we can help with kids that are not ours is to teach the parents in a relationship, in a context of a relationship, new skills for them to teach to the kids. Or if we have access to those kids through the Sabbath school class or the Pathfinders, teach them skills. That in that example, the guy was taking medication, but looks like no skills were taught to him. How to deal with anxiety, how to deal with aggressiveness, how to make decisions, the impact of those decisions, etc. So teach skills and have a relationship with them. Yeah, and then.
Pastor Doctor, or Doctor Pastor.
Gamaliel. Gama.
You hold both of those titles, and that's important to the question I want to ask you. One of the things we often find in faith communities is the misconception, in faith communities and certain cultural communities, the misconception that certain kinds of mental illness may not only be the fault of the person, but could also be demonic possession and something to be afraid of on like that deep, dark level. Because you're both pastor and doctor, I would like to leave you with that loaded question to help us as a faith community process a little bit.
To answer next time I come back?
If you need to research it, but give us a snapshot now. And yes, we would like there to be a next time.
Oh, no. Well, yeah. That's a question that not most, but many, many pastors ask. We were at the, what's the name? Well, the Adventist hospital had a meeting with pastors of the region all the way to New Jersey in the Union. And we were talking with a psychiatrist from Shady Grove, I think. And that question was asked. So I was kind of expecting it. But I don't have a definitive answer to that. I'm sorry. I would say that even if you cannot identify if it's one or the other, prayer should be present in both of them. Support and relationship should be present in both of them. And yeah, mainly that, because I'm avoiding, I don't want to enter to specifics in terms of, like that day somebody did, voice, or how he moves their hands. No. Some people say, no, if he puts up deep voice, then, but that's kind of Hollywood. Yes. Yeah, so we have to be careful with that. So I don't want to be simplistic, but as for now, I would say prayer should be present. So if somebody is aggressive, if somebody is out of control, in the process of calming them down, pray. If you want to sing, sing. If it's something spiritual, we know that works. If it's not, it will work too. Okay? Pray. And even more important, spiritual conflicts like that, and we know that spiritual world is real. I'm not denying that. But spiritual issues like that, or conflicts or wars that people have, does not come from one day to the other. So get to know people. Get to know the people around you. And you will know if they are working with God or if they are fighting with someone or something. Okay? For someone to be possessed, they don't have to show signs as, again, Hollywood taught us. Okay? Sorry, I don't have a deeper answer for you. But it's a good conversation topic. Yeah. You wanted to say something,
Yeah,
right?
I wanted to
Go
say
ahead.
something. Yeah, I'm just thinking about this young boy and just, the young people and adults in our church, and some of the things that I heard here today, not only from the pastor, but also from you. I would say that, I think relationship building is super important, when we talk about, building connections with young people and also old people, whether in Sabbath school or just in general. But I think that, also being real, I think, is super important because, sometimes I feel that in the church, we often come to church, we put on this mask, we come and we act like we're perfect. I think the pastor touched on that earlier. And we act like we ourselves don't struggle. We act like we don't have mental health problems, So we come to church and we sit and listen to other people share their testimonies, but we ourselves are sitting there thinking, good thing they don't know about what's going on with me, But I think, when we're looking at young people, really what they want to know is they want to know that we're real. I mean, They want to know that we ourselves are struggling too, just like they are. And they want to know that we ourselves, even though we're struggling, we are reaching out. We're looking for help. Prayer sometimes is not enough, and I'm a believer and I believe in God and I believe God could heal all things, but I also believe in mental health. And I think that we need to take the stigma away from getting help. And if you are not qualified to help a person with mental health issues, don't act like you can. Prayer is not always the answer for everybody, and I think it is good, but maybe pray for them to find a mental health clinician to work with them, but know your limitations and don't act like, you can solve all things through prayer, because some people need more than just prayer, and that's all I have to say.
Very good, very good, very good. I agree. I like that you said if you're going to pray that they find the good person to help them, right? So we don't need to eliminate prayer. I wouldn't recommend that, but I understand your point. Sometimes we rely on prayer and say, okay, I have everything, let's pray, and that's it. And that becomes an excuse for us not to help other people. Yeah. And especially this generation, you're right. Gen Y, Gen Z, millennials and centennials, and they value the people that are genuine, more than titles, more than, yeah. You're right. And in order to have that, we go back to relationships. To be able to be genuine and to show that we are genuine, we need to have a relationship with them. Very good, thank you. We said?
I want to say I really like that statement because that's the direction that this church is moving. And that's why we're having these events, is so that we're real, because these things are real in life, So it's 1 in 5 adults in the U.S., right? So you can just do the math in just this church alone. So that's what we're trying to do, is remove the stigma, work on ourselves little by little. So I appreciate that statement.
Awesome. I follow you on social media, and I saw everything you do, but after today, I think I'm going to move to the church. Yeah.
What advice would you give to someone who...
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Sorry. What advice would you give to someone, or the family members of someone going through postpartum depression, so that they don't feel like they are less than because they can't, live up to what they're supposed to do as a mother? So
I don't know if I understood right there.
So if
What
someone,
advice do I give to a family member?
what advice would you give to someone going through postpartum depression,
Oh, okay.
or the family member to help that person, especially if the person is feeling less than because they can't take care of their child?
Yeah, yeah. For the family members, two things. Be patient. That is part of being empathetic. Validate their emotion. I'm going to write it down because I want you to remember those two parts that I was sharing about empathy. In that case, it's very easy for us that are doing well to forget that the person is going through a real thing, right? So empathy is to acknowledge feelings. But it's not only that. Acknowledge. Empathy is to express that you understand. And understanding. And we go back to be genuine, right? This part is about being genuine. A person that is going through postpartum depression or any depression needs to hear that or you understand why she or he is reacting or acting certain way. Okay? For example, when you say, I know that you feel like you are looking through a dark cave or tube and there's no light at the end. I understand that. And I would feel maybe the same way. What are you doing? You are validating. You are acknowledging feelings. But then you cannot leave it like that. You need to express understanding and offer, if possible, not all the time you have to, a solution. Or more than a solution, offer hope. Hope. And for us Christians, we have something that feeds this area of hope. We have the Bible. And we can go back to the promises of God. Hey, I know that you feel this way, but look this experience in the Bible when David was feeling like dying and God told him this and this and this, and look how God came through and act in his favor, right? Those are tools that we can use. So this is the first one. We need to be patient and have empathy. Second one, we need to inform ourselves in terms of what to do and how to do it, and act. Act. If the mom cannot carry the baby yet because she doesn't feel like it, you can carry it, you can feed it, and go little by little, asking for her help and involving her and highlighting the good things about the experience. Remember that that a person that has or is going through a depression kind of lose the ability to see the good things around them, around her or she or her, him, around him or her. So you could be those eyes that person needs. Hey, look at this. What a beautiful thing, right? And maybe she said, okay. But later, she will understand or he will understand. Okay? A little bit. Just a little bit. There's much more to learn. So look for books and read and have conversations again. Okay? Thank you. Are we set? Somebody else? You tell me. Okay. Then thank you very much for your patience, for your empathy with me, and for listening. God bless you all.